Good evening, Shabbos, everyone. Parsha Veschanan, Shabbos Nachamu, and we know that this week's Parsha we learn we read it as the Ten Commandments the second time. The first time is the Parshas Yisro, and the second time is Parshas Veschanan. And the difference is it's brought down that the first Aseret Dibros is the way God is speaking to us, and the second one is Moshe Rabbeinu talking to us, because the whole book of Dvarim is Moshe Rabbeinu talking to us. And the Rebbe, it's very interesting. In 1992, the Rebbe on Parshas Yisro spoke about how a person has to combine the two Aseret Dibros, the two Ten Commandments, the way Hashem speaks to us and the way the Ten Commandments comes through Moshe, and have that as simultaneously part of our day-to-day lives. And the Farbrengen was so much about Parshas Veschanan that it seems as if the Rebbe was telling us a Farbrengen about Parshas Veschanan that year, 1992. By Parshas Veschanan, the Rebbe had already suffered a stroke and he was no longer Farbrengen with us physically. And it could be that the Rebbe, that's the message for Parshas Veschanan as well. And the idea is to combine the two Ten Commandments, because we know that in Parshas Veschanan, it's all about Moshe Rabbeinu really showing us his desire to enter Eretz Yisrael. And he says, Eber Nov Era, let me enter the land, because if I enter the land and I see the land, it's going to elevate the experience for the Jewish people. Moshe doesn't have a private experience. When Moshe wants to see the land and go into the land, it's because it benefits the Jewish people. And we know so much that Moshe Rabbeinu wanted to give us so much revelation. Moshe asked us that we should be able to see God. We should, like he says in Devarim, he says, Ma Hashem Lekecha Shalom Imach, what does God want from you? Kim Liyira, he wants us to have fear, because we know the emotion of fear is when you have an up-close experience with God. When you're close to God, you're so close you have an experience of fear. When you're far, when you're from a distance, you love. When you're in a far place, in a desert, then you have a yearning, a love. But when you're standing close to God, you have a fear. God, Moshe Rabbeinu said, I think you guys can handle that up-close relationship. And the Jewish people said, that's too much for us. And when Moshe Rabbeinu tells us that when God was speaking to us in Ten Commandments, the Jewish people said, it's too much, we can't handle it. We need it to go via you. And Moshe Rabbeinu was again disappointed. He wanted to elevate the Jewish people, that they should be able to handle the level of fearing God, to be up close. They should have Ata Reis Ladas. They should be able to see God. But Hashem says to Moshe Rabbeinu, the Jewish people are right, because the idea is that as much as it is important, the first 10 commandments are that's God speaking. But the way Moshe tells it to us, it's the way it's Oiris V'Kalim, it's lights in vessels. It's the way we are in this world, in our complications, in our contradictions, in our challenges, that we have to be able to find God. We can't be overwhelmed. We can't be taken out of the space. And Hashem says the Jewish people are right, because that in order to really experience Dir B'Tachtonim, in order for God to really actualize why He wanted to create the world, is the idea is the second 10 Commandments, because in the second 10 Commandments we live in a world where we interact with the world, and nevertheless with the 10 Commandments penetrates that space. But at the same time, we have to remember the first 10 Commandments. We have to remember there's a higher power. We have to remember there's a higher idea, that though when we're sitting in the world we have a shi'ifah, we have a yearning to be out of that space. We have a yearning to want to see God. Like it says, the Jewish people say on Tisha B'Av, Zachar Mahayalanu. Remember what happened to the Ma. Remember what happened to the Bittul. Remember what happened to what Moshe gave us. That although we don't feel it consciously anymore, but remember it's still there, and we can awaken it, and we should awaken it. And by awakening it, the Ma, the Bittul that we have within us, then we'll be merit and we'll zeicha to have the Gula Mitzvah Vashlema, like this week's Parsha ends off, the Haftorah Nachamu Amri. God says, I destroyed the Beis HaMikdash, I destroyed the second Beis HaMikdash. But a great Nachamu, a great consolation is coming. There's going to be a rebuilding of the third Beis HaMikdash. The Jewish people are going to come back to the land. Moshe Rabbeinu is going to actualize his desire eventually, that he's going to be able to bring Yira, fear, he's going to be able to bring Re'iyah, visual, he's going to come himself to the land, Eber Nov Era, he's going to cross over, he's going to be with us with the coming Mashiach in the Gula Mitzvah Vashlema B'Karav Mamash Good Shabbos.